There are moments in life when we search for great answers in distant places, only to discover that the smallest actions reveal the deepest lessons. We often believe that transformation must be loud, dramatic, and unforgettable. Yet true change usually arrives without making a sound. It slips quietly into the heart, asking only that we pay attention. 30 days ago, I heard about an old tradition. It suggested placing a small amount of salt in the corners of a doorway. Some believed it welcomed peace, others believed it encouraged positive energy. Whether these beliefs are literal or symbolic is a personal matter, but I decided not to test magic. I decided to test myself. On the first day, nothing extraordinary happened. The walls did not glow. Fortune did not suddenly knock on my door. The world outside remained exactly as it had been before. But something unexpected began to happen inside me. Every morning, as I noticed the salt near the entrance, it reminded me to pause before rushing into the day. Instead of carrying yesterday's frustrations into today's opportunities, I stood quietly for a few moments. I allowed my breathing to settle. I released unnecessary worries. That simple pause became more valuable than I had imagined. As the days passed, I became more aware of the atmosphere in my home. Not because the salt changed it, but because my attention changed. I spoke more gently. I cleaned more regularly. I welcomed guests with greater warmth. I noticed how peace often begins with ordinary habits rather than extraordinary events. The doorway itself became a teacher. Every time I crossed it, I silently asked myself, what am I bringing into this home? Anger or patience? Fear or courage? Complaints or gratitude? These questions slowly reshaped my actions. During the second week, I realized that many burdens I carried were not created by the world. They were created by my own thoughts repeating the same worries over and over again. The salt became a quiet reminder to leave those burdens outside whenever possible. Whether or not the salt possessed any special power no longer seemed important. The reminder certainly did. By the third week, I noticed another change. I stopped expecting instant rewards. Instead of asking why life wasn't changing fast enough, I began appreciating the small improvements that usually go unnoticed. A calmer conversation, a more peaceful evening, better sleep after letting go of unnecessary arguments. These gifts may appear ordinary, but they quietly build an extraordinary life. Many people seek signs that the universe has chosen them, but perhaps the better question is this: have we chosen to become kinder, calmer, and wiser today than we were yesterday? When we focus only on external miracles, we may overlook the miracle of personal growth. A peaceful heart often attracts better decisions. Better decisions create healthier relationships. Healthier relationships create greater opportunities. From the outside, it may appear as luck. From the inside, it is often the result of steady awareness. By the final week, I understood that the greatest change had nothing to do with the salt itself. The ritual had created consistency. Consistency created mindfulness. Mindfulness created peace. And peace changed the way I experienced each day. Sometimes people ask whether old traditions truly work. Perhaps the answer depends less on the object and more on the intention behind it. A meaningful ritual can remind us to slow down, reflect, and act with greater care. When that happens, our lives often feel different. Not because the world has suddenly transformed, but because our perspective has. After 30 days, I cannot honestly claim that wealth appeared overnight, or that every problem disappeared. Life still brought challenges. Difficult conversations still happened. Unexpected obstacles still arrived. But I faced them differently. I reacted with greater patience. I worried less about things beyond my control. I appreciated the blessings already present instead of constantly chasing the ones I imagined were missing. That perhaps was the greatest gift. Sometimes the doorway to a better life is not found in changing the world outside. It is found in changing the way we cross the threshold each day, with awareness instead of distraction, with gratitude instead of complaint, and with hope instead of fear. Whether you place salt in your door corners or choose another meaningful daily ritual is entirely your decision. What matters most is creating a moment that reminds you to return to wisdom, compassion, and inner balance. Because when the heart becomes peaceful, even an ordinary home begins to feel extraordinary. And sometimes the quietest habits leave the deepest footprints on the journey of life. The power of small daily rituals. A simple act, like placing salt in the door corners, becomes a daily reminder to slow down, be present, and begin each day with a calm and mindful attitude. When I first placed a small amount of salt in the corners of my doorway, I expected that if anything changed, it would happen outside of me. Instead, the first and most meaningful change was the quiet pause it created in my daily routine. Every morning, before stepping out into the busy world, I noticed the salt and remembered to stop for just a few moments. I took a slow breath, relaxed my mind, and set an intention to carry patience instead of frustration. Every evening as I returned home, the same simple sight reminded me to leave behind the stress, disappointment, and worries I had collected throughout the day. This small ritual gradually became more valuable than I had imagined. It encouraged me to move through life with greater awareness instead of rushing from one task to another without reflection. The salt itself was never the center of the experience. It simply served as a quiet symbol, reminding me to be fully present in each moment. Over time, these brief pauses changed the way I spoke to others, handled unexpected challenges, and appreciated the comfort of my home. I realized that lasting peace is often built through small, consistent actions rather than dramatic events. A few mindful moments each day may seem insignificant, but repeated over weeks, they gently reshape our habits, our thoughts, and ultimately the way we experience life. True change begins within. The greatest transformation does not come from the salt itself, but from developing greater patience, gratitude, self-awareness, and emotional balance. As the days passed, I slowly discovered that the most meaningful transformation was taking place within me rather than around me. At first I wondered whether the simple ritual would somehow change my circumstances, but instead it changed the way I responded to those circumstances. I became more aware of my thoughts and noticed how often I allowed worry, impatience, or frustration to guide my actions. Each time I saw the salt near the doorway, it reminded me that I had a choice. I could carry yesterday's disappointments into today, or I could begin again with a calmer and more grateful heart. Little by little, I chose the second path. I found myself listening more carefully, speaking more gently, and reacting less quickly when difficulties appeared. The challenges of life did not disappear, but they no longer controlled my peace of mind as they once had. I began to understand that true strength is not measured by how much we can control the world around us, but by how peacefully we can guide our own thoughts and emotions. Gratitude slowly replaced constant comparison. Patience softened moments of anger, and awareness helped me notice the many blessings that had always been present. In the end, I realized that the greatest change was not something I could see with my eyes, but something I could feel in my heart. That quiet inner growth became the most valuable result of the entire 30-day journey. The doorway as a symbol of new energy. Each time you cross your home's entrance, it is an opportunity to leave behind anger, stress, and negative thoughts while welcoming peace, kindness, and hope. By the third week, I no longer looked at my doorway as just another part of my house. It had quietly become a symbol of choice and awareness. Every time I stepped across that threshold, I reminded myself that I was entering a space meant for peace, kindness, and rest. Before walking inside, I asked myself a simple question. What am I bringing through this door? Was I carrying anger from a difficult conversation, worry about tomorrow, or disappointment from something I could no longer change? If so, I imagined setting those burdens down before crossing the entrance. Then, as I stepped into my home, I chose to carry patience, gratitude, and understanding instead. This small mental practice slowly changed the atmosphere of my daily life. My home began to feel calmer, not because the walls had changed, but because my attitude had changed. Family conversations became more peaceful, small disagreements ended more quickly, and I found myself appreciating simple moments that I had once overlooked. The doorway became more than an entrance. It became a daily reminder that every new beginning starts with a decision. Each time we cross a threshold, we have an opportunity to leave behind unnecessary negativity and welcome a better version of ourselves. Whether the doorway is made of wood, stone, or metal does not matter. What truly matters is the mindset we choose to carry as we enter the place we call home, because our inner state often shapes the environment around us. Consistency creates inner peace. Repeating a meaningful ritual every day builds mindfulness, encourages positive habits, and helps create a more peaceful home and a calmer mind over time. As the days turned into weeks, I realized that the true value of this simple practice was not found in a single moment, but in the consistency of repeating it every day. At first, it felt like nothing more than a small routine, something easy to overlook. Yet each morning and evening, the familiar sight at my doorway gently reminded me to pause, breathe, and become aware of my thoughts before moving forward. These repeated moments of reflection slowly became a natural part of my life. I noticed that I was making better decisions because I was no longer reacting to every situation without thinking. Instead of allowing stress to control my mood, I learned to respond with greater patience and understanding. This daily habit also inspired me to care more deeply for my home, keeping it cleaner, more welcoming, and filled with a sense of gratitude. Over time, I understood that meaningful change rarely happens all at once. It is built through small actions practiced faithfully, day after day. A peaceful mind is not created by one extraordinary event, but by many ordinary moments lived with awareness. The simple ritual became a steady reminder that even the smallest habits can shape our character when practiced consistently. In the end, it was not the act itself that transformed my experience, but the discipline of returning to it every day. That consistency quietly nurtured mindfulness, strengthened inner peace, and made each new day feel like an opportunity to begin again with a calm and grateful heart. The greatest miracle is personal growth. After 30 days, the real reward is not instant wealth or magical results, but a wiser perspective, better reactions to life's challenges, and a deeper sense of contentment. When the 30 days finally came to an end, I looked back and asked myself what had truly changed. I could not honestly say that life had suddenly become free of challenges or that every wish had been granted. The same responsibilities, unexpected problems, and difficult moments still appeared, just as they always had. Yet something important was different. I no longer allowed every obstacle to steal my peace. I had learned that the greatest miracle is not an instant change in circumstances, but a gradual transformation in the way we see and respond to life. Instead of searching for extraordinary signs, I began to appreciate ordinary blessings. A peaceful morning, a kind conversation, a quiet evening, or the comfort of returning home after a long day. These simple moments became treasures because I was finally paying attention to them. I also realized that wisdom grows through steady practice rather than sudden inspiration. Every mindful choice, every patient response, and every grateful thought added another small step toward becoming a better version of myself. Looking back, I understood that personal growth is the most valuable reward anyone can receive, because it stays with us no matter where we go. External success may come and go, but a calm heart, a balanced mind, and a compassionate spirit continue to guide us through every season of life. That was the greatest lesson of my 30-day journey, and it is a lesson I hope to carry with me every single day.